Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Want to know why you do what you do? Stay tuned to find out.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, the author of 4 books on retirement and offices in Bowling Green and Louisville, Kentucky, the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
Welcome to the WorryFree Retirement, and I am Tony Walker, and for about the next 28 minutes or so, you're about to go on a journey dedicated to helping those savers out there, maybe you, worry less about money. Glad you've joined us today. By the way, this is going to be a very interesting show about golf, money, and life. So let's start off with the proverbial question. Do you like golf? Well, I love golf. In fact, recently I had the good pleasure and fortune of going out to California, the famed Pebble Beach golf course. There's a picture of myself, son-in-law, youngest son Anthony, and my brother Marty. He had just turned 60, so I treated him to a little venture over to the West Coast to play golf. This is on the 18th tee box of Pebble Beach. Man, that was a lot of fun. But speaking of golf, I've played this game of golf ever since my parents divorced when I was 10 years old. Now, I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, so in 1970, at the time of my parents' divorce, I was just a 10-year-old snotty-nosed kid whose father was still trying to remain in the picture. And one of the things I remember him doing is dropping by the house and taking me and my older brother Marty to a local hangout there in Lexington, just on Mason Healy Drive, for those of you who know where that is. It was a cool little place. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was like Mason Healy Par 3 Golf Course or something. But at this little location, it had a nice putt-putt course. Right beside the putt-putt course, it had a real small driving range area. You know, you got the bucket of balls and you went out and hit balls. And then what was very interesting about this, to me, I think this would be cool in Bowling Green. I don't even know if Louisville has this. Aaron, does Louisville have anything what I'm describing right now? Maybe. I don't think so. But anyway, right by the driving range was probably a 20-foot high fence that separated the driving range from an 18-hole, really small par 3 course. I mean, it was really, really cool. This thing was lighted and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, now this is a funny story. I got to tell this. This is one of my favorite stories on my dad. But now keep it in mind that my dad, if you knew my dad, he was as tight as they come when it comes to money. Man, he was a tightwad. So here we are. We're going out for this family outing, you know, with Dad. We're heading over to Mason Healy. We're going to do the putt-putt thing, then we're going to hit a little bucket of balls, then we're going to go over and play the par 3 course. We're all excited. So here you go. Visualize it. Remember that 20-foot fence separating the driving range and the golf course, okay? 20 feet. That's not very high. So when you're driving golf balls, especially if you got a bad slice because the fence was on the right, there were people that constantly hit golf balls, they're called range balls, over that fence and onto the regular course. Now, the course at the time, sometimes when people are playing the course, would accidentally hook the ball, hit it left, and go over the fence onto the driving range. So this was a real predicament. So also back then, it was hard to find golf balls, and a lot of times you just bought the new balls to play golf at the little pro shop, and they weren't cheap. So you had this fear, everybody had this kind of fear of when you teed off on the first tee box of hitting your brand new ball over the fence and into the driving range. Obviously, you can't go over there and get it. So here we go. As you might imagine, on that fateful day, my brother Marty, my older brother, he tees up this brand new ball that my dad had just bought, a sleeve of balls. He proceeds to hook that ball right over the fence and into the driving range. Now, there's my dad. He doesn't have a real good temper, but he was able to temper his temper. And I guess instead of getting on Marty, he invites Marty to hit another ball, brand new ball. Well, you guess what happens? Yep, Marty hits another one over the fence, and my dad actually just loses it. Again, I remember this like it was yesterday. So he's fuming. We walk off the little tee box. It's probably not 70 yards to the green, and Dad's still fuming. And all of a sudden notices in the high grass close to the greens are all these range balls. So Dad just whimsically says, "Hey, boys, grab some of those range balls." So here's a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old kid stuffing our pockets full of these range balls. Now, before any of you all get too judgmental of my father, think about this. I guess this was my dad's logic. You know, back in 1970, a range ball is all beat up. Maybe it's worth 10 cents. We've just lost 2 balls worth 70, 75 cents a piece. So he's thinking, that's $1.50. We should be able to get 10 to 15 range balls in exchange. And that was my dad's idea of a fair trade. Well, anyway, so here we go. We're walking up to the green. We've got our range balls in our pockets. We're all smiling again. And way in the distance, we see coming towards us from the driving range one of those little Jeeps with the apparatus on the front that picks up the range balls. This guy drives around the fence and he's coming right towards us. I guess you know why, don't you, Aaron? Aaron's kind of shaking his head. Oh, by the way, this was really cool. We Googled one of the first driving range ball picker upper apparatuses. And you got to check this out. Look at this thing. This guy dressed up with a basket. I mean, now this would be tempting. I know people try to hit the guy out there in the Jeep collecting range balls, but this guy walking on a driving range picking up balls, that would be pretty fun to shoot a few 6-irons at him. But anyway, so here we go. You got the picture of this guy pulling up on his Jeep. He pulls right up to the green, all right? And all of a sudden, he gets out, and I'm serious. This guy looks like John Candy. Remember the John Candy, the comedian? He gets out, kind of pulls up his pants. He's a little overweight. My dad, getting ready to putt, looks up, sees this young man getting out of the cart. He probably was only 18, 19 years of age. My dad responds, "Hey, what you need, Tiger?" So he gets out and he goes, "Sir." Again, this is exactly how it went down. I know you don't believe. How do you say, Tony, how do you remember this? You're 10 years old. I sent this to my brother, the script of this that I was working on. Marty said, "Tony, that's exactly how it happened." But anyway, so he goes, "Sir, you wouldn't happen to have any of our range balls, would you?" And in only a way that my dad in his cool, calm, and collected manner could respond, he takes a look at me, he takes a look at my brother, he looks back at the guy there standing there by his Jeep. We're trying to conceal all the range balls in our pockets. And he said, "Range balls? Man, you got to be kidding me. I got enough money to buy this place. What would I want with your range balls?" So just a hilarious story. That has nothing to do with today's show, but I had to share that one in memory of my dad. But when you think about a divorced dad taking my brother and I golfing, it was really about doing something with us as an activity. Now, this is where I'm going. This is good stuff. It was Dad trying to be a dad. And it turned out to be a hilarious, memorable day, this whole range ball episode. And you know what's kind of funny about that? The experience is what I remember. I could not tell you, have no idea what I shot in terms of the round of golf for that 18 holes. It was the memory of the experience of playing golf with my father. So let's face it, is what golf and money in life is really all about, is trying to enjoy the moment, try to enjoy the experience, use the medium of golf or the medium of money to help you do that. That's my point, and that's why the Worry-Free Retirement I think is so unique, is because hinged in this philosophy is how can we use and enjoy and protect our money to the best of our ability and then just enjoy the ride along the way. Now, I got to admit, since the age of 10, I've played a lot of golf. In fact, let me show you something. This is pretty cool. This little video clip of me, this is a video, it's an old one, it's on YouTube. By the way, you need to check out our YouTube channel. It's Tony Walker Financial. You can go on our YouTube channel. We got all kinds of tutorials on there, old past shows. We've got the old episodes when I was on Wave Listens with a lot of question answers. But this one is one that I did with Buddy Demling about golf and what it has to do about money. This was about 10 years ago. Really good stuff. But anyway, so I love golf and I love it even more. I've had more lessons. I've got better clubs. I play more golf. And here's what I'm starting to question a little bit. Maybe you've experienced this. I'm starting to wonder, okay, why am I really playing this game? Because really over the past 20 years, I wasn't very good at age 10, but in my late 20s, I was pretty good. I was kind of a 10 to 11 handicapper. And I'm no better. Now, you might say, well, you got a better swing or you strike the ball better, but I am still about a 10 or 11 handicapper. So the other day, I'm out at the driving range hitting some balls, and a guy walked up that I knew, and we were just talking about this, and I kind of made the comment. I said, this is a strange game. I'm not getting any better at this, and I'm playing more golf than I've ever played in my life. And he went on to say, have you ever heard of a golf instructor by the name of Fred Shoemaker? And of course, you know me, I'm always open to stuff, and I said, no, who's Fred Shoemaker? And he said, well, as my friend went on to say, I went out to one of his clinics in California, and I liked his take on the game of golf. Now follow with me. This is good stuff. Even if you don't like golf, people, please hang in there with me. So my friend went on to add, In fact, Tony, I think you would like this because I don't think he knew this, but I've got a psychology background, and this guy's getting more into the psychology of the game of golf and the why we play golf. Not how we play, but why we play. And it's this particular book I'd recommend you if you're a golf fanatic. It's called Fred Shoemaker's Extraordinary Golf. Great read. I've already read it twice. So, again, I'm a psychology major. I love this stuff, but I also love the game of golf. And here's the thoughts. After reading the book, I thought, I want to enjoy this game more. Now, and this is what we talk about with the WorryFree Retirement and what he talks in his book. We're going to cover this in a little more detail in the next segment. It's going to be good stuff. But it's the concept of being versus the concept of doing. So when we come back, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into a little bit of what Fred Shoemaker says, this golf pro, about the concept of being. In other words, why are you playing the game of golf? And the doing, what is it you're trying to accomplish? So they're both important. And then I'm going to tie that to money. Why are you doing the things you want to do with money? And number two, how are we going to accomplish that? And more importantly, are you chasing a rabbit down a hole and maybe chasing the wrong rabbit when it comes to what to do with your money based on who you are and what you want out of life? I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. Let me get the whiteboard out. This is going to be some good stuff. Even again, if you don't like golf, hang in there with me. You might after you watch this segment. We'll be right back.
Are you worried about going broke in retirement and being a burden to your children? Plan on attending Tony Walker's next free workshop, Retirement 101, Tuesday, August 15th in Bowling Green and Monday, August 21st in Louisville. During Tony's workshop, you'll learn how to lower taxes and fees on your money and how to secure mailbox money for life. That's Retirement 101 with Tony Walker, Tuesday, August 15th in Bowling Green and Monday, August 21st in Louisville. Seating is limited, so register today at TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Welcome back to the WorryFree Retirement. In case you're just joining us, this is not the Golf Channel. Kind of quoting Extraordinary Golf from Fred Shoemaker, and we're going to tie this into money. This is really good stuff. If you're a golfer, you ought to be loving this. But even if you're like my wife, who's not a golfer, this should still make a lot of sense. We're talking about being versus doing. Okay, let's kind of set the stage. First of all, it's interesting that Mr. Shoemaker, and this kind of caught my attention. I hadn't thought about this. At the break, Aaron and I were talking about this. I was quoting some things from the book. And he thinks about the typical, let's kind of turn over here, the typical time spent playing golf takes about 4 hours around. Now, my son Anthony and I have actually been able to play in 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's our record, 18 holes. But normally, let's face it, you go out and play golf, it's about 4 hours. Mr. Shoemaker makes an interesting point. How much of the 4 hours is actually spent swinging the club, time-wise? Well, if you think about it, let's say you average a 90, well, that's only 90 strokes, so you only swing it 90 times. It only takes, what, a few seconds to swing a club? So think about how much energy is expended, and possibly frustration, over this small period of time, out of the 4 hours, and the rest of the time, it can affect the enjoyment of the 4 hours. So when he hosts a class, he does these classes or workshops, he talks about this in Extraordinary Golf. He talks about the being versus the doing. And he asks this question. He asks of everybody, why do you play? And then he calls them workshops. We have workshops too. I'll tie this together. What do you want out of this workshop or this lesson? So let's think about this. Why do you play? And I'm sure you'd have similar responses. This is an abbreviated list off of his book. I like the challenge. I like to be with friends. I enjoy it. I like to get out and walk. Okay, see, those are just things we enjoy doing. That's the being part. But now look what over here. This is where the pressure comes in. What do you want out of the workshop? So in golf, you might say, I want to correct my slice. I want to make more putts. See, this is all the doing stuff. I want to get out of the bunkers. I want to lower my handicap. And granted, you need to do these things and you have to learn them to work on your game, to improve your game, but that shouldn't affect this, but it does. In fact, he makes an interesting point. This is really true in money too. Mr. Shoemaker says, even if you work on this and improve your score, because golf is such a difficult game, he said that he's seen people actually get better at golf, lower their handicap, but they're no more happier playing the game. Let that sit in a minute. And that's kind of like life. Money is like this. We're talking about the attraction of money and thinking, listen, this is where the financial world gets you, folks. If only I could make more money. If only I had more money, I would be happier. Now, granted, there's nothing wrong with working on our doing, trying to earn a better return on our money, trying to learn to play it safe, learning about taxes, fees, all these things that we help people do that can put more money in your pocket. But I can't guarantee you just because I can make you more money or save you more money, which I can show you how to save money. I just saved a gentleman yesterday $8,000 a year in fees. Now that is a fact. We saved him that much money each and every year. We're going to be able to save him that. But I can't guarantee that's going to help him be any more happy. See where we're going with this? Now let's think about money in life. Okay, at the break, as Aaron and I were talking, Aaron, this just dawned on me. Okay, we talked about golf. It's a 4-hour game, and you're only spending maybe 10 minutes at max swinging the club, but those 10 minutes affect everything you do the rest of the 4 hours. Kind of a crazy thought, isn't it? Isn't it goofy? But look at this. What about our lifetime? Over your lifetime, think how much you work hard at making money. All right? Isn't that the doing? And then you have to ask yourself, why are you working so hard at trying to make all this money? And if it's not affecting your being, if it's not making you more happy, maybe you need to stop a minute and say, maybe the road I'm on is not the right road. Maybe all these things I've been told over the years, all these financial tips I've been taking that really aren't reducing stress, maybe you need to do something different. You know, I ran into, this is a true story, and this was a shocker for me. You know, sometimes my clients can teach me something. Long story short, I had a client, it's been a client for years, and they came into some extra money. Money that was extra, okay? They're already retired. We didn't plan on getting it. So you would think, okay, they talked to me about, well, Tony, where do we invest it? We've had everything safe up to this point. We've had no risk whatsoever. And as we were talking through our new Charles Schwab program, which does entail a little bit of risk, okay? We don't put a lot of money there, but it does entail some risk. I said, why don't we put a little bit with Charles Schwab? They said, fine. So off we go. We put it in one of our allocations a week or so ago. Didn't cost them anything to go in. There's no upfront cost for the Schwab program. You ought to check it out. It's pretty cool. No transaction cost to get out of it, just a small fee that we charge. Well, they came in the other day. And I mean, I know these people well. Their body language, their mood was not good. And I said, come on in, sit down. What's going on? And they looked at me and she said, Tony, years ago I told you I do not like risk. And I said, I know that. And she said, I don't know if I like this account. And I kind of laughed. I said, well, actually, it's made some money. Again, it's not guaranteed to do that. It just happened to have gone up a little bit since we put the money in. She said, I don't care. We've been worried sick about this thing because it could go down, right? And I said, oh, yeah, it could go down. And she said, I want out. So I called the office. I was in the Louisville office. I called the office in Bowling Green. I said, Heather, sell all those positions. We got out. No charges to get out of the accounts the way we have them set up. And it was like, whew, I wish you could have seen this, Aaron. It was like the weight was just lifted off her shoulders. So the weight of the doing, which I thought that's what she wanted to do and it wasn't, was putting a burden on her. So folks, many of you are doing things with your finances that are creating worry or causing unnecessary worry. Now we're going to talk about in the next segment the difference between being concerned, but the difference between concern and the weight of the world, the pressure you're putting on yourself, when in many cases you don't need to do that. Let me make this offer to you. If you would just like to talk about your situation, we have a unique way I go through things. By the way, I talk with everybody personally. I've been doing this 33 years. This is all I know. I'm pretty good at it. And I would love the opportunity to just see what it is you're trying to accomplish. What is it you want? And then why do you even play this game? Let's just talk about the game of money and life. And I bet I can help you worry less about money if you give me that opportunity. Why don't you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com right now or give us a call at 877-499-WALK. By the way, a bunch of workshops coming up in Bowling Green and Louisville. Check those out. Retirement 101, it's a great workshop. They're absolutely free. You can register at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, does the Bible have to say anything about doing and being? A whole bunch, and I'm going to cover that in just a second, but yep, I got to get me a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
For years, you've seen him on TV. Now see him in person. As retirement specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker personally hosts his next free workshop, Retirement 101, Tuesday, August 15th in Bowling Green and Monday, August 21st in Louisville. Learn how to set up mailbox money and leave your worries behind. Attend Tony's workshop Tuesday, August 15th in Bowling Green and Monday, August 21st in Louisville. Mailbox money can help you enjoy and protect your retirement. Seating is limited, so register now at TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Oh yeah, it's what I call a good cup of coffee. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Aaron says we got to watch our time here, but this is important stuff. We got to talk about the Bible and what it has to say about being versus doing. Now the real question we need to ask when it comes to money and the things of the world is as follows. How is this thing? In other words, whatever that worldly thing is. And that can even be my infatuation with golf. You see where I'm going with this? Golf can be an obsession, just like anything. And you got to have that fine line between enjoying things and being obsessed with them. So anyway, this thing, what is this thing? You could have a thing that's affecting your relationship with the Father. In other words, we want to be in God's arms. And the way we do that is not always by doing, but in accepting what He has already done for us. Now, when it comes to money, one of my favorite books on this subject is Watchman Nee's Love Not the World. And this is good stuff. In it, Nee does a masterful job of helping me, even as a financial advisor who should know this stuff, or remind me, shall I say, that there is a fine line between the being and the doing. And when it comes to money, there is no more slippery slope than one can slide into than falling into what Nee refers to as the sinfulness of worldliness. Now, I truly think that just as we ask ourselves why we play the game of golf and money, we can simply ask ourselves this question. How can God keep us from falling into the sin of worldliness? And what does that even look like? Well, let's turn to Luke 17, 28, 32. Luke 17, 28 through 32. Aaron, if you'll put that on the screen, let's scroll through this, where Jesus reminds us of this history and the story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah. So as we see here in verse 28, it's interesting that we are reminded that no matter who you are, what time of the centuries you lived in, what country you lived in, isn't it interesting that verse 28 talks about eating and drinking? So, and we see in the days of Lot in verse 28, they were eating and drinking. They were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. Doesn't that sound a lot like the worldly activities of today? So folks, what God's reminding us of, and Jesus is reminding us here, is people did that back then. We have to do worldly things now. There's nothing wrong with that. But then it goes to verse 29. So at some point, look at this, God reminds us that all of these worldly things will end, which they did in Sodom and Gomorrah. So the things on the earth are temporary. Now, what this is referring to is at the time Christ is saying, He's saying, when I come back, look at verse 31 here. He says, on that day, let not the one who is on the housetop, in other words, the one that's ready to come home to be with the Lord, look what He says, and whose goods are in the house. See, think about that, folks. There needs to be a separation. You're imagining yourself on the rooftop, you're awaiting Christ, you're all excited, but at the last minute, you don't want to leave the things of the world. This is what He's talking about. So you want to go back and get something, right? And He's saying, be careful of that. Don't cling to the things of the world. Cling to me. And He says, and likewise, let not the one who is in the field turn back. And He follows this with a staggering verse. Verse 32, remember Lot's wife. Now that's not good news, folks, because what happened to Lot's wife? Well, she decided instead of returning home, remember we talked months ago about going home, she decided to go back to her other home, which was the wrong decision. Now to me, in my humble opinion, what these verses remind me of is that we can't get caught up in the world. We physically will one day have to die, but that doesn't mean our souls have to die. We can lose the joy if we're not careful by interacting with the world and clinging to these things that really rob our joy. So it's a fine line. I'm just saying that. I agree with that. But the grace of God is accomplishing the work to keep us from crossing that line. Now, Nee says of this, may God grant us the strength and wisdom to use the world, again, fine line, but not desire the world. Let us be concerned with the things of the world, he says, but again, not be weighted down with the things of the world. And that's where the corruption lies. 2 Peter 1:4 talks about that. Let's turn over to 2 Peter 1:4. Basically, at the end of that verse, Aaron, as we see here, he's talking about the entanglement of the world. No, the lusts of the world. In other words, this longing to have more and more of the world, the eternal things which are not found here, folks. Now again, I struggle with this as much as anybody. So you maybe say, Tony, I know you're preaching to the choir there, but there's good news here. Because you say, well, Tony, I want to enjoy the world the way you're talking about trying to enjoy golf and money. How do I do that, and is that a godly perspective? Yes, it is. Let's go over to Ecclesiastes 2:24, Aaron, 2:24. We're running out of time. We got to hustle here. Great, great verses, but look what it says here. This is the good news, folks. 24 said, there is nothing better for a man than to eat and drink. There we go, eating and drinking again. And to tell himself that his labor is good. So in other words, whatever you're doing, no matter your job, your labor, you do it for the Lord. It's really good stuff, folks. This also I have seen, in other words, to have this kind of attitude, he says, is from the hand of God. Finally, in verse 25, he says, for who can eat and who can have enjoyment without him? So maybe that sounds like you right now. Maybe you're watching this show and you're saying, Tony, I've got quite a bit of money. I think I'm following what you're saying. The money has never really made me that happy, though. Why is that? Maybe it's because you're putting too much stock in the world and not just seeing the world for what it is. It's a temporary place to live. It can be an enjoyable place to live, but there is nothing to cling to here in the world. Hopefully your trust and hope is in another world, and if you're a follower of Christ, hopefully you've placed your trust in Him, and that'll keep you from following too much in what Nee talks about, the sinfulness of worldliness. Well, maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, Tony, back to the money thing. I'm sitting here thinking about how can I enjoy my money? How do I understand and learn more about this worry-free retirement process that you've created? Well, that's the good news from a standpoint of just money. This is a process that was born out of years of work. I've been in this business 33 years, and it is specifically designed for savers, to help those savers who want a safe and secure retirement, and they want an advisor whom they can place their trust with. We're a fiduciary. We work in the best interest of our clients. We're an independent organization, so we work for you, not the institutions out there. If you'd like to talk to me in person at either our Louisville or Bowling Green, Kentucky office, there's no cost or obligation. Love to have the opportunity to do that. It's easy to do. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. While there, we've got some workshops coming up. We can meet in person. We've got great information for you. Don't forget about our Facebook page, and don't forget about our YouTube channel at Tony Walker Financial, where you can go back and watch a lot of video clips, a lot of educational tools. And after watching those, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. I'm going to see you next week on the Worry-Free Retirement. But as always, remember, if all else fails, you remember to be worry-free. You make it a good day.
Thank you for watching the Worry-Free Retirement with Tony Walker. If you need a safe and simple game plan for your retirement, log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and schedule a free, no-obligation meeting with Tony.